You're listening to the Good Morning Show on WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning. Wake up, New Orleans. Yes, indeed. Happy Thursday to everybody. This is Oliver O.T. Thomas and the Early Bird in the studios at WBOK. Let's hope everybody had a good work week so far. Now, you can slid down the backside of Hump Day into Thursday. Not Friday yet, and unless this is part of your work weekend, no, we still have this day and another day of work to do. We got a rally down at City Hall today, the local hire rally. There's an effort by Stand with Dignity, Center for Workers' Justice, and many local organizers for local preference. We've already gotten the living wage increased a little bit here. It's not a saving wage yet, but it's a step in the right direction. So we want to thank Councilmember Brissett and his leadership, the mayor and his efforts to approve it, with Ashley Gardere and her team and what they're doing downtown to give. Maybe it's time we take a look at working class people. We tried it the other way. Rich folk are doing really well. They're squirreling away a lot of the cash. So maybe we ought to live in an age right now where we can give a little bit back and a little more back to the people who do the work. Maybe we can begin to build and rebuild this middle class that is dwindling. So the local hire rally is at 10:30, and then hopefully the city council will take up the local hire ordinance and approve it. We know that there are several efforts in the business community to try to defer it and ultimately kill it. 504-260-9265. Man, we got a great interview today with Miss Paula Williams-Madison, Harlem native, author, big wig and exec in the television and media industry. She's going to be talking about her book, Finding Samuel Lowe, her journey to find her family. So we're looking forward to, when you guys, all I say is Google Paula Williams-Madison, man. A wonderful, phenomenal woman, has opened a lot of doors and banged on a lot of doors, especially in television, radio, and media. Just really a powerhouse of a lady. What's happening out there in the world? Press conference yesterday by the mayor and executive of the Sewage and Water Board. The Sewage and Water Board fixes will take 6 to 9 months. So let's cross our fingers and hope that we don't have another power outage at Sewage and Water Board. We got enough brain-eating amoebas out there knocking us down in the street without having trouble with the water. So at least we know that the city and the Sewage and Water Board are taking steps, moving in the right direction to make sure that we fix this. Man, how do you feel about that whole Sewage and Water Board piece? It's been happening now at least 10 times and more in the last several years. So why is it taking so long to take a step to move in the right direction? And why will it take 6 to 9 months? But at least we know we're moving in the right direction. Now, West Jeff Hospital deal has finally been cut. It's now part of the LCMC. It's part of LCMC Health. So the operation changed hands. The city council and the administrators in Jefferson Parish have approved this deal. So we know that's been done. Ira Thomas, a former school board member, was sentenced to prison yesterday. The article reads, Ira Thomas, former Orleans Parish school board member who admitted taking a bribe and rigging a public contract, was sentenced Wednesday to 1 year and 1 day in prison. He must also pay a $4,000 fine and upon release serve a 1 year supervised release. So he'll be on probation for you. That's Ira Thomas. No relation to Oliver Thomas, but we're going to pray for that brother and wish the best for him and his family. Gosh, just another bang-up day out in the streets yesterday, too. 2 teachers were targeted and robbed at a school yesterday. 504-260-9265. See, somebody call OT, man, in the early bird. Tell us what's happening with these criminals out there. Why are they so brazen? What can we do about it? I love to hear solutions. We offer some solutions here. You hear me, Tim, you've heard folk at this station offer some things that we think leadership can do, that we think community can do, because we cannot blame. Look, things have gone so astray and are so wild with our kids and in much of our society. We can't blame just any one segment. We can't just blame the church. We can't just blame the political leaders. We can't just blame, in many cases, we can't just blame parents, because it's bigger than that. We have to talk about how the collective works together to create a better environment. But being robbed at the school, unbelievable. But then again, in today's times, not really unbelievable. For those rhythm and blues aficionados, New Orleans rhythm and blues legend Frankie Ford died at the age of 76, man. Frankie Ford, a flashy, flamboyant New Orleans rock and roll and rhythm blues singer whose 1959 hit, Sea Cruise, hey, on a sea cruise, made him an internationally known performer whose career would span more than 60 years. Died after a long illness. He was 76. Despite battling health problems in the last recent years, he actually continued to perform. That's just like New Orleans, man. Don't nothing stop us and slow us down. So Frankie Ford, man, rest in peace. I know he's up there with all the other great New Orleanians playing in heaven. So 504-260-9265. Sewage and Water Board, man, a lot of this crime that's happening in the street. Also, we know that there was a press conference to bring in the feds because of so many robberies uptown. Well, they got a lot of robberies in New Orleans East too. All right, they got a lot of robberies in Central City too. Let's bring in the feds there. 504-260-9265. Does any one community deserve any more attention than the other? Help OT. Coach, you're on the air. Talk to me. Hey, Coach, you're on the air. Talk to me.
Good morning, OT.
Hey.
I was chiming in on the crime bit.
Yes.
Seemingly, it's a huge problem when crime evades an area that's not particular to it, like in New Orleans East. But when it's uptown, it's a major story. So that rather bothers me. Also bothers me is the situation with the police monitor. We really need to rise up, let our elected officials know how we feel about that.
Yeah.
And lastly, I am sick of you guys' advertisement with the advertised clothes, the advertised bed. So I want to put my money where my mouth is and also challenge all the listeners that love WBOK. I would drop off a money order or cash, $30 to WBOK, and I'm asking each listener to do the same, and let's get some advertisement done with you guys to basically say that we love WBOK.
Well, and if you listen to the Good Morning Show, an specific show, I'd appreciate if you were dedicated to that. That allows us to continue to do what we do. But, Coach, that's why I asked the question about, no particular part of the community deserves to be safer than any other.
Right.
I tell folk I was giving a lecture on some political history, and as popular as Chief Pennington was, you'll remember when him and I had the debate about when he was going to put all of the reserve officers in the French Quarter.
Right.
And I said, hey, man, look, do I want to protect our tourists? Absolutely. But you're not going to put all our officers in the French Quarter because people are getting robbed in our communities, too. People are getting robbed in our neighborhoods. The people who live here every day deserve to be just as safe, if not even more, I'll say it, more safe than anyone who comes to this town.
Right. But what the word says, faith without works is dead.
Correct.
A lot of brothers and sisters that listen to WBOK are conscious people.
Yeah.
But we need to rise up and let our voices be heard. And I'm prepared. I'm prepared to do that.
Well, there's a difference between being conscious and being conscious enough to do some work.
Wow.
Coach, I appreciate you. Man, God love you. We bless you, and we appreciate everything. And thank you, man, for putting your money where your mouth is.
I'll be dropping that off today. And listeners, don't bring a check. Bring a money order or cash. And let's do that for WPOK. Let our work speak for us.
Thank you so much, man.
God bless you all.
God bless you. 504-260-9265. Coach says that it's interesting how when a particular part of our community starts to experience crime, then it seems like we work overtime with extra efforts. 504-260-9265. Should any one part of our community be more safe than the other? Should we treat every neighborhood the same? Give OT a call. Let's talk about that, man. It's interesting to know that once things start to happen in certain segments, that they get a whole lot of attention. And I'm not to say that they shouldn't. It shouldn't have happened in those communities anyway. 504-260-9265. Brother Richard, you're on with OT and Early Bird. Talk to me.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas?
Yes, peace to you. You're on.
Yeah, look, this is Richard, and I've just been thinking about with some of the problems that our youngsters are having,
Yes.
and you're a good example of being able to go back to when there's a correlation. I'm not talking about cross racial lines.
Mm-hmm.
When I ride around during the daytime and at night, most of the schools, white schools, and I don't make it sound like it's a racial thing, have activities in the afternoon. They have school activities during the day. Those youngsters are able to engage in activities during the day. When I ride around to our other schools, we don't see any kids outside engaging in activities and doing the kinds of things that we used to do. Yeah, and I think there's a close correlation between human behavior when you're locked up during the day in those classrooms and you don't have an opportunity to release the energies that you have built up over the day or whatever. And we look at some of the schools that they are building. I go around and watch. I love to watch, construction.
Right.
Now, they aren't providing space, ample space for kids to play and exercise. I don't know if you've noticed the same thing, but like I said, I do that. And another thing, too, I'm segue to, someone needs to monitor that recreation department football program. I went out yesterday because it's just that's something I used to do for, about 30 years. I continue to do it.
Very good at it.
They're allowing kids to come on those football fields with shoulder pads and no jersey. That's a good way for a kid to break his neck. And I spoke to some of the coaches about it. And I guess it would be one of the best way to be able to get somebody to take a look at that, because I told the coach that of the city allowed it to happen. And he said, well, the parents bring them out there. I said, but you are the surrogate parents, and you're responsible. Parents release that child to you.
Well, you're absolutely right, Coach. And just to kind of walk down that history lane, memory lane with you, you remember in the 90s when they had the coordination between the schools and New Orleans Recreation Department, conflict mediation task forces. There was actually a combination of efforts where everybody was working together with schools and playgrounds. So let's hope maybe we can bring back something like that.
Because and I'm not going to hold you long, but I know you have other, because when I was at Urban Policy Specialist, what we try to do was have in-school programs that originated during the daytime, and then in the afternoon, then we had what we call after-school program. So we had kids engaged from when they went to school academically, and then you're talking about the cognitive and affective psychomotor domains, and those are the things that they were able to do in the afternoon. So I think we need to take another look at the cooperation between the school system and the recreation department, and perhaps to be able to deal with some of the behaviors that we have.
Right. Thank you so much, Brother Richard, man. We appreciate all the work that you do in our community. 504-260-9265. Should any one segment of the community be any safer than the others? And what are some of the things we can do, man? Just a rash of armed robberies, whether it's New Orleans East, Uptown, Central City, Lower 9, French Quarter, Lakefront, Gentilly, 7th Ward, 3rd Ward, wherever you're from, Algiers. Our communities needs to be safe. In other news, in Metro News, Shepard disqualified from House race. Court upholds law barring felons. Derek Shepard's political comeback ended Wednesday when the Supreme Court forbade him from running for the House of Representatives. It upheld rulings from the Jefferson courts that the former legislature is ineligible because he's a convicted felon. In a related case from Baton Rouge Court, in which Shepard challenged the constitutionality of a law banning the ballot, that will come before the Supreme Court later. So one of the cases has been upheld barring him, but the case of Judge Wilson Fields, who ruled in Shepard's favor. Isn't it interesting how, depending on the race of the judge, in many cases, the law is extremely different. So for everyone out there hoping that Mr. Shepard, his case would hold up, the first case that the Supreme Court held has disqualified him from the House race. That's no surprise to anyone. So we'll see what happens with Judge Wilson Fields' ruling, and where he ruled that the law was unconstitutional and vague at best, and what was voted on and what was passed by the legislature did not have the consistency that he thought that the law merits. So one judge sees and says one thing, another sees and says a whole another thing. So there's not even consistency with the court. So Derek Shepard disqualified. One more try. So when the Supreme Court hears the Wilson Field ruling, then we'll find out. I think that's going to be his best chance at being able to run for office. So 504-260-9265, a continuing battle we have with our AG and our police monitor in an advocate article by Matt Sledge. Inspector General Ed Quatrevo on Tuesday released his letter recommending the removal of independent police monitor Susan Hudson. In doing so, he offered a window into a stormy meeting between Hudson and a federal judge over the release of a video showing alleged police misconduct. Quatrevo wrote to the board's Ethics Review Board on Thursday urging the firing of Hudson, whom he hired in 2010, but has since feuded with over how independent her office is from his. The board has set an October 23rd meeting at his request. Quatrevo's office has refused to release the letter on Friday, calling it a personal matter. But on Tuesday, he said that Hudson's attorney, Ron Wilson's comments about the letter to the advocate had waived her right to privacy. Wilson strenuously objected to the claims in Quatrevo's letter last week, suggesting that his recommendation for firing is a retaliatory move to her fight for independence. 504-260-9265. Man, we got so many battles going on in our town, whether they're legislative battles or fights for freedom. How does the Constitution, after a person has done their time, bar them from their citizenship, their opportunity? How do you get your citizenship back? Is the South different? Have our judges and people who mete out justice and rule over the law, have they said, man, it's going to be different in Dixie? All of these battles between the sheriff and the mayor, the IG and the inspector general, legislators versus New Orleans. Mayor Kip Holden of Baton Rouge, his comments in the federal investigation about the treatment of people from New Orleans after the storms. Well, how do we expect our kids to be peaceful and our streets to be peaceful when our leaders are not peaceful? Man, it seems like, we need to be as worried about politics and who's in charge than ISIS and Al-Qaeda. We got a whole lot of terrorists and terrorism right here on our streets. This is OT. When we come back after the break, man, stay tuned for a wonderful discussion with a great author and just a great leader, man, a lady who's opened a lot of doors, Miss Paula Williams Madison. A Harlem native. We're going to talk about finding Samuel Lowe, his journey to find her family. After the break.
You're tuned into the voice of the people, WBOK 1230 AM, where it's real talk for real times. You're listening to the Good Morning Show on WBOK 1230 AM.
Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Oliver O.T. Thomas, the early bird, and the entire WBOK family. Man, what a treat we have this morning. On the line, we have author Miss Paula Williams Madison, the author of Finding Samuel Lowe. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Thank you. How are you?
Man, if I was any better, I'd be you. And after reading, man, your resume and just hit Google you, I mean, just unbelievable. First African-American general manager at a top 5 a network station in the top 5 market, chief diversity officer, executive of diversity, FNBC, Universal Media, General Electric, news, reporting, New York, Dallas, Fort Worth, Telemundo, Walter Bremen Award winner, LA Brotherhood Crusade, 75 most powerful African Americans in corporate America, Black Enterprise, Power 100 Hollywood Reporters, Citizen of the Year. Wow. Hey, Why you didn't run for president?
I'm just a sister trying to get a job done.
Now, you're a sister who provided a whole lot of jobs for a whole lot of people. But it was interesting when I read this one article that said, as successful as you have been, and, Miss Madison, I always like to tell people God puts gifts us sometimes with people on this earth who put others first. And your life is a testimony to that. And you put your family first. I mean, in 2011, you just said, I'm going to find my family.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for all the wonderful words, and please call me Paula. Okay. That's true. In 2011, I said I was going to fulfill my mother's dream of finding her family in China, and it was quite daunting. But the fact is that the groundwork for that entire journey was laid by not only my mother, who was half African Jamaican and half Chinese, and my father, who was African Jamaican. They stressed to us, even though we didn't grow up with both of them because they split when I was a child, but they both stressed to my two older brothers and me that family is the number one most important priority that you can have as you are living your life and trying to be a wholesome and fulfilling person. So for us, without my mother ever saying to me, go find them, I kind of knew that that's what needed to happen in order for us to feel whole as a family. When you're a child of immigrants, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners are, come from the Caribbean, come from the 54 nations of Africa, come from all over. What you know is that your parents, the immigrants in your family, made a choice to leave home and everything familiar in order to make a better life. That's why immigrants go somewhere, to make a better life. And so for my parents, that's what they instilled in us. But in the meantime, what you can't do is leave behind the history and the legacy and the family. And for us, there was a huge, huge gap. So growing up, I actually talked to a gentleman who was the person who hired me into NBC in 1989. And he said to me, when I first interviewed you, he said, you never said anything about being mixed with Chinese. And I said, I don't know how you bring that into conversation.
Right.
I mean, you don't just say, hey, guess what, by the way, I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm black, I got black people hair, I got a black people face, but it wasn't relevant, I didn't feel, to the issue. And yet he said to me, after reading your book and watching the documentary, I now understand why you are the way you are.
Wow.
And I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, you're unrelenting. He said, you charge in and you're going to get things done, and it makes perfect sense because that's how you were raised, and that's what was reinforced. And it's true. So I'm a product of my parents and their aspirations and their goals. And so if I have managed to, sort of break down barriers, and I appreciate you telling me that I'm responsible for a lot of people hiring, I like to think that I'm responsible for helping create opportunities.
You are.
But people are responsible for getting themselves hired. It's they who have the skills. It's they who have, the character, the strength to say, yes, this is the job that I can do and will do well, and then convince people that, yes, they are the ones.
That's perfect. I tell young people that who come up to me or people and thank me, I say, well, hold on a second. You had to have something to work with for me to help you.
Absolutely.
But one of the most fascinating things about your journey and your story, though, is the Asian or the Chinese connection. I was fortunate enough. I had last Christmas season, I had lunch with Juki Chin, one of the owners of Juicy Pate, down in Jamaica, and he talked about that strong Jamaican or Caribbean Chinese connection, and it is very fascinating. And we see a lot of people, especially in New Orleans. My mother's family is from Haiti, the Dominican. They'll look Asian, but we tend to abandon that part of our journey and our search here. You didn't do that.
No, and also here's what I hope that my story, my narrative will sort of spawn. Usually when we as black people in this country think of ourselves as pairing with other people of color, we usually think of Latinos.
Bingo.
And that largely comes from, I think, because we are used to, particularly in the Caribbean and in Latin and Central America, we're used to Africans also having mixed in with the Arawak or Carib, the Mayan population. And so what we see is that's the blend.
Correct.
What we don't talk about and it's not put in front of us as such is that we also have been mixing for centuries with Chinese people. There are even theories that the first Chinese people were blacker skinned than some of them are today.
Yes.
So what I'm hoping will happen is the conversation, as the Asian population in the United States is now the fastest growing group of immigrants in this country, what I'm hoping is that we as African Americans who find ourselves in many instances being disenfranchised and on the lowest rungs of the power of ladder, the ladder that leads to power. We find ourselves, they're going to say yes, the President of the United States is a black man.
Right.
Yes. And now let's talk about when we think the next time is that's going to happen, right? But what I'm getting at here is in order to establish a power base, in order to change the economics, in order to change the response of the law enforcement system and education, so many things, we're going to have to make alignments with other peoples. And we don't have conversations as a rule with people from Asia. And still, there are quite a number of us. My estimate, it's my own crazy estimate, but my estimate is that there's probably upwards of 1 million black Chinese roaming through the Americas.
Paula, you are a visionary and someone, let me say this, you may be a humble lady, but you see into the future. As a matter of fact, I tell folk all the time, after Hurricane Katrina, one of my trips was to Asia with the United Nations Disaster and Prevention Bureau, learning with the Chinese and the Japanese about recovery. And what was amazing to me to see was a number of people of color, African Americans from the East Coast and Africans, doing business in China.
Sure.
It was unbelievable. And I said, wow, hold on a second. If we understood the opportunities there, we wouldn't have to be on the lowest rung here in America. There's a whole nother nation that's the largest nation on the world that's actually not opposed to opportunity.
Oh, not only are they not opposed to opportunity, but they are reaching out.
Yes.
What is the one nation that is heavily investing in the nations on the continent of Africa?
China. That's
China, right? What's the nation that right now is investing heavily throughout the Caribbean and Latin and Central America? China. Yes. And what I'm getting at here is that China is actually investing in nations that a lot of the Western powers find too risky.
Bingo.
Right? So what happens when you are, frankly, having tough times and a friend comes forward to help you? You have a loyalty to that friend. And yet, here's what I want to say to you. When I went to, since I found my family in 2012, many members of us have been going back and forth from the United States to China. They've been coming here, hanging out with us. We've been going there, hanging out with them. But there was an occasion a year ago, a little more than a year ago, where when I went there, my cousins said to me that in Shenzhen, China, which is about 30 miles west of Hong Kong, that's where our ancestral village is located. And my family's Chinese lineage can be traced back to the year 1006 BC. So I'm the 151st generation. It is all documented, written down, right? So we're there, and they say, newspaper wants to interview us. They're gonna meet us in Lo Sui Hop, which is our ancestral village. And I say, okay, so we go and we're interviewed. And I don't understand why there are so many film crews. There's a phalanx of about a dozen photographers, reporters, producers who are interviewing. I worked in newspaper, and I'm like, this is not a newspaper. I don't get what's happening here. So we go through this whole thing. I go back 6 months later, and my cousin, who is a customs official and a Communist Party official in China, he says to me, there's going to be a ceremony where they're going to honor our family along with some other families. Remember that interview? And I said, okay, please explain to me. I thought it was a newspaper article. What it was is that Shenzhen, China, which Deng Xiaoping, who was the premier, many years ago, 35 years ago, took a sleepy fishing village 30 miles west of Hong Kong and decided that it was going to compete with Hong Kong because, remember, at the time, Hong Kong was under the British.
That was it, yes.
Right? 35 years later, today, it's a city of 30 million people, right? And it surrounded by Shenzhen, China, is my family's village. So that community says, we want to tell that there are actually legacy families that were here in Shenzhen for centuries. And they featured my family as a typical Shenzhen family, with me front and center in the picture. And I was like, what? At which point, my cousin says, they're going to unveil this whole campaign. It's a television campaign. It's going to be on the bus shelters, in the metro stations. My head's now spinning. And he said, and our family has to make a speech, and you're going to make the speech for our family. I was like, do you know that I speak no dialect of Chinese? You do remember that. Now, there's a translation going on because he's speaking Cantonese to me, and I don't speak a dialect. So I step out on stage with my young cousin who's going to translate to Chinese, and they stand and give me a standing ovation. And I'm like awestruck. I'm like, what is happening? Now I find out that some months later, the nation of China, the government of China, took that picture and had it put in the headquarters of the European Union in Brussels, typifying a typical Chinese family. What does that mean? China is reaching out to black people.
Well, we're talking to the author of great author and former television, radio, media executive, Paula Williams-Madison, and the author of Finding Samuel Lowe, China, Jamaica, and Harlem. You know, there are a couple of really important books that are out, and I believe that yours is one of them. Isabella Wilkerson's The Warmth of Other Suns,
sure,
about the migration. I think I believe your book is just as important in talking about ancestral connections and how we advance ourselves into the future. Talk about some of the, other than that story in Shenzhen, some of the more interesting things that you found. You know, and as soon as I knew you were going to be on, I started thinking about all the kids, Paula, who in our community, and I grew up in the lower Ninth Ward of New Orleans, the African-American community.
You know, my husband's from New Orleans.
What, I knew there was a whole lot more things wonderful about you.
They are the Madisons.
Oh, yes, I know the Madisons.
So there's Glenn Madison and Allen and Jerome, and my husband is Roosevelt, and there's a million of them.
Great family. I thought about all the little kids in our community that we call Jap and Chinaman.
Oh, yes. Yes. I have a story about that.
Yes, I want to hear it.
So there's a brother whose name is Gregory Lee, and Greg is from New Orleans. And he recently was the president of the National Association of Black Journalists. And about 4 or 5 years ago, he went to Xavier, as did my daughter. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I looked at Greg, and I said, Greg, where's your family from? He said, New Orleans. I said, no, I know that.
But where they really from?
But you have a look that makes me ask, where did they come from? He said, oh, my grandfather was Chinese. I said, I knew that. Now, I'm going to tell you that the same cultural group of Chinese, which is called Hakka, H-A-K-K-A, that is my family, are the Chinese who went into New Orleans as merchants on ships. They worked the ships, and frankly, in many parts of the United States, beginning in the 1850s, wherever you find where there was rice planted, you will find that Chinese people went. So my buddy is Al Sharpton, Reverend Sharpton, and I grew up loving James Brown. One time in my life, I played hooky from school. I was like in the 8th grade Catholic school. I had to go see James Brown. He was playing at the Apollo Theater, and so silly, I came home and told my mother I played hooky. And she asked me why. I said, Ma, I had to see James Brown. She just smiled and laughed and said, okay. So Reverend Sharpton says to me, Sister Paula, you know that James Brown told me one day that his mother said to him that they were part Chinese? And I looked at him and said,
makes sense.
He's originally from they're from South Carolina. And the whole rice crops down there. And I said, Rev, I'll bet he was right. There are so many people who you wouldn't necessarily know who are mixed age. Neo is one. Oh my God!
Some of those Madisons down here in New Orleans look Asian and Chinese.
Well, now there's
also
2 groups of Madisons. One is the dentist family.
Yes,
and that's not my family.
Okay,
my family is the Madison group who lived around Perdita Street and Harmony Street.
You're talking about Glenn and that group.
Exactly, and there were 20 of them. Right. They're originally from Houma and Zonell, Madison, Washington, and so they all. They family moved up to New Orleans, and there's a million Madisons who are there, many of whom I think I will see Friday when we screen the film at Delgado Community College. But there is a nickname, for example, among the Latinos, which is Chino.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to explain to people that, especially when the Chinese who were building the railroad in this country, in California, we had the miscegenation laws. They could not mix with white women, and their own women had to be left in China.
Right.
They were not allowed to come because they only wanted laborers.
Mm-hmm.
And so who did they mix with? They mixed with Mexican women, and they mixed with Native American women. And that nickname Chino means Chinese.
You can see it on the reservations in New Mexico and
you
in the
absolutely
Southwest.
can.
Absolutely.
You absolutely can. And there are so many of us you can talk about. And there's Naomi Campbell. Her grandfather was Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many people who you wouldn't necessarily point out, but then when you look closely, and if you ask them, and those of us who hail ancestrally from the Caribbean have learned to kind of spot each other, because you can't just dismiss face and hair, skin tone and hair texture and say, okay, we as a people are mixed with so many things. But again, my point about this entire narrative is that I want people who are of the African diaspora and people who are of the Chinese and Asian diaspora to talk with each other about race and power and how we can come together in our communities, as opposed to us believing the crazy things we've heard about them and them believing the crazy things they've heard about us.
You just said something that was extremely important, that we tend, unless you're from a certain culture, unless you've done the work that you've done, the Caribbean culture and the culture you're from, you can identify your own. It's just like New Orleans, New Orleans black folk. We don't care how light-skinned you are. If you from that lineage in New Orleans, wherever you are, we know it. You may not want to.
Oh, you mean, yeah, right.
You may not want to own up to it.
My husband has taught me the phrase, we've been married 25 years, Passon Blanc.
Yes,
I know about that.
We can see it in you. You may not even acknowledge it,
right? You
but
can't
we know
hide
it.
Because what you don't do is just say, oh, well, that's a black person. Yes, it is.
Right.
But you learn to look deeper. And when you look deeper, it's not because for any other reason. I like to think that it's just like when we go into a place, wherever I am around the world, I give the black people nod. You know what that is. Absolutely. I see you, you see me.
Bingo.
There's only a couple of us here, but you know what? I got your back, you got mine. Wherever, you don't even have to speak the language. I have been in parts of Africa. I've been in China where I've seen Africans and give each other the nod.
Absolutely.
Why? Because we know we're just a little spot here and all, we're just a minority. Like, I got you. You got me too, right?
The other part of what you said, though, which is extremely important, that's why people need to read your book. First of all, before you leave, we need to talk about the screening. We need to talk about how people can get the book.
Sure.
It is extremely important because it opens up their opportunities. And with your brilliance, and I have to say, is in that looking towards the future. How do we get off those lower rungs economically? We can complain. We can have a black president, yes.
Right.
But in terms of economy, your book and those relationships moving forward open up major economic opportunities.
Right. So I would like to just mention something that is inherent in the Chinese culture. It's inherent, at least in Jamaica. It happens in parts of Western Africa. And that's one where what you do is acknowledge that in order for you to accumulate the capital to create a business or to invest, that accumulation of capital can be accomplished if you turn to your family, your biological family,
Bingo.
Or your God-made family, the family that you look out to and say, you my girl, you my boy, we're going to do this together.
That's right.
Because we were raised to believe, my parents said, your money will go farther and have more impact if you pool your money. And that's how we have always done it. We have made business decisions together. We have bought real estate together. We own property in New Orleans by pooling our money. Because if you go through life thinking that whatever you accomplish is solely up to you, you're going to be a lonely, and even if you reach some modicum of success financially, you're going to be a lonely and unhappy person because what you need are people who love you and support you to go through all the crazy things you have to go to. So for example, in the Caribbean, there's something called susu.
Mm-hmm.
And susu is one where 10 people, I'll pick that number, 10 people agree that every month they're going to put in $1,000. And every 10th turn, each person will have $10,000. You have to commit to staying in the SUSU, but what it is it's an enforced savings. You might not be able to come up with $10,000 on your own because too many things get in the way. But if you can't go to a bank and get a loan, which frankly was a reality for our people for many, many, many centuries, decades, that wasn't happening for us. So if you can't do that and you decide that what you need to do is buy this, if you know that in 10 months I'm going to get a lump sum of money, then you make plans for how you're going to use that investment.
Well, cooperative economics. We're talking to the great Paula Williams Madison. Let's talk about how we can get this book in the screening.
Sure.
Thank you. Some interviews just don't last long. I've always been fascinated by history. My mother has always done a lot of work to try to link us to our people in Eastern Europe and in the Caribbean, and it's a strong Caribbean connection. But we've been conditioned to just stop at being African American. Black.
Well, I think we've been conditioned to do something else. We've been conditioned to stop at around slavery.
Yes.
And a lot of us try to get a little bit beyond that, and maybe we could find a couple of great grandparents, and then it's a success story.
That's right.
But the fact is, I like to say that even if I can trace my family on the Chinese side back 153 generations, what I would say is that everybody has got to remember, and I say this out loud, the original man and woman on this planet came from Africa.
Yes.
Everybody started in Africa. So I want to pay honor to the lineage and the history of where everybody came from. But my book is called Finding Samuel Lowe. I also shot a documentary about the search to find my family in China. It's going to be screened Friday at 6:30 at Delgado Community College. And then I'll have a book reading and signing at the New Orleans Public Library on Loyola on Saturday morning at 11. The website, which is called FindingSamuelLowe.com, has all kinds of information on it. And my book was published, thank goodness, by HarperCollins Publishers, the Amistad imprint of HarperCollins. Mm-hmm. So you can get it everywhere. You can get it at all your major booksellers, online, etc. But you'll also be able to get it next 2 days in New Orleans if you come to the events, because we'll have them there.
Well, I'm sorry we don't have enough time. I mean, I'm fascinated by your vision and your commitment. You promise to come back in the future.
I promise. Call me anytime. But just so you know, New Orleans is my second home, so we're there reasonably often, and I want to give a shout-out to my mother-in-law, Flo Madison. I love you, Flo.
I know all those Madisons are listening. Gosh, I look forward to meeting you. It would really be a great honor, and having my own copy of the book.
Well, will I see you?
Signed. Oh, absolutely.
All right. Well, my brother, just, let me know it's you, because right now we're just disembodied voices.
I'm going to let you know.
Let me know it's you, and we'll give each other, a hug, and happy to meet you, but thank you so much.
And since I'm hooked on phonics, I'll say absolutely. I will be there. Paula Williams Madison, get a copy of that book, Finding Samuel Lowe, and let's go out to the documentary at Delgado, 6:30. A couple of great books. You guys hear me talk about Isabel Wilkerson's Warmth and Mother Sons. This book, in creating opportunity and being visionary, and those links to our future, just as important. Gosh, this is a Good Morning Show. We want to thank everybody who tuned in. Stay tuned for Small Business Thursdays after the break.
You're listening to the Good Morning Show on WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, WBOK family. It is Thursday, so that means it's Small Business Thursday. And my name is Isaac. It is my pleasure to present to you the area's small businesses, nonprofits, and ministries that are moving the community forward. Because that's what we need to do. So, WBOK family, thank you for listening. If you are listening online at www.wbok1230am.com, thank you. If you are listening in your car on the way to work, thank you. If you have downloaded the app from the Apple iTunes Store or from the Google Play Store, and you're streaming right now, thank you. All right. So we give thanks for the family. And before we even get the show started, I just want to let you know tonight is the night. You've been waiting for it. It is the third installment of the Generations Networking Mixer. And it is happening tonight from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Les Musées, right there at 2336 Esplanade Avenue. If you have not been to Les Musées, I can tell you that you are in for a very unique experience tonight. Even just the mixer itself, you know the mixer is going to be awesome. I know Janae Pierre has put together an awesome mixer, and but the environment that we're going to be in tonight is one of those that I could guarantee that you will leave with extra value. You will understand more of the free people of color, the struggle of the free people of color, and the accomplishments of the free people of color. So it's one of those experiences I can guarantee you do not want to miss, and you do want to get involved. So again, tonight, Generations Networking Mixer. Make sure you bring your business cards. And be there from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. At Les Musées, 2336 Esplanade Avenue. All right? So, a pen, a sheet of paper, a pencil, and let's get right into it. I have with me Miss Lindsay Jack. I always get it. Jakiel. And she's our good friend over there at Nunez Community College out there in Chalmette. How you doing, Miss Lindsay?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us over this morning.
Well, I give thanks for y'all. I spent last weekend doing a live broadcast from the lobby and the beautiful administration building out there at Nunez. And with the Louisiana NAACP, the state conference, is the 73rd state conference, and the St. Bernard chapter. It was their first time actually hosting the conference, right? And they brought it to Nunez.
And yeah, you got a chance to see. We've got some great new facilities, right. And one of our missions at Nunez is to really be a partner for the community. So happy to host groups like the NAACP now that we have beautiful new administration building with some great conference rooms, some space. So folks can contact us at the college. We can put you in touch with our director of facilities if you're interested in how you can have your community group or nonprofit or meeting that you're having take place and utilize Nunez really as a community resource.
I think that was an excellent partnership. It showed, it kind of highlighted what Nunez had going on, and it gave the NAACP the resources they needed to be effective in some of those presentations, some of those workshops and stuff that was going on. So that was really cool. So thank y'all for that. And super shout out to Brother Levin LeBan and Pastor Gabriel out there, who's the president of the St. Bernard chapter of the NAACP. But we are talking Nunez, right?
Yes.
And so the fall is approaching. It's kind of right here. The cool weather's coming. And, when the seasons change, sometimes our goals change, right?
Right.
Sometimes we figure, now it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty and get the business done. And I need to get that extra education, or I need to get that extra certification, or I need to, just to brush up on some of the learning process, right?
Right.
So what's going on new at Nunez College, and how can people get registered?
Yeah, so we're here today to really talk about our workforce development program. So we've been over here talking with folks, WBOK listeners, before about our traditional semester, our credit programs, but today we want to talk about our workforce development and non-credit opportunities. So what that means is that anybody, community member, someone that is looking to change their direction in terms of their career and needs some extra concrete skills and certifications to do so, workforce development at Nunez Community College is the name of the game for that. So our workforce development, we really focus on skill trades, the craft trades, things like millwright, electrical construction, welding. Those are all going to be your NCCER certified for electrical and construction. For welding, it's AWS. So these are for folks that are in the industry, in the skilled trades industry, in the construction industry. These are the types of credentials that you are looking for.
The National Center for Construction, Education, and Research. That's the NCCR.
Yeah.
And so do they put out the standards for what you need to be certified in to get these construction jobs?
They're the ones that put out the standards, and we make sure that our programs adhere to those standards so folks that are getting that education from us are eligible. So that's really...
And they're ready to work.
Yeah, they're ready to work.
Right.
You know, that's the name of the game. And then with workforce development, the one of the reasons that we're here today is we actually have a new class that's starting on Saturday. So with the workforce development courses, folks might be listening now and thinking, well, didn't the semester start several weeks ago? Well, it did for the traditional students, but workforce development, we can be flexible. If there's a demand in the community for that training, boom, we can start up a class. So that's really what we want folks to know. Don't think that just because you missed that traditional August start date or January start date that there isn't an opportunity to get enrolled during the course of the semester, because workforce development, it's more flexible. It's for folks that are really looking for that education and training. And sometimes we're able to create a new class because there's demand in the community. If we get enough calls for people that need a welding course, we can try to see if we can start one up to meet that community need. And so our brand new program, new class that we're starting that starts this Saturday.
This is like hot off the press.
This is like hot off the press, is ready to roll.
And it's based on demand.
And it's based on demand. Right. So we're going to do a brand new class for the very first time in solar construction, solar panel installation and design. And I have our instructor here who will tell you a lot more about that. But this is just a really great example of what we're talking about when we're talking about workforce development at Nunez Community College.
You know what? I like the idea of educating people based on demand. We always talk about how in education we're learning things that we don't use and so forth and so on. But when you get to the adult age and you're thinking, you know what? I need a career that is sustainable for me. And there are jobs out here that are sustainable for the community and the greater good. And just the idea that this market and this industry is emerging. And when you create education opportunities for people to get real jobs, to create a real career, is just phenomenal. And that's again one of those solutions or one of those ways that we move the community forward, right?
I mean, and that's in the truest sense of the word, when we talk about what it means for a school to be a community college.
Right.
This is what we're talking about. And the unique thing about community colleges, especially here in Louisiana and especially with Nunez, is that we have the opportunity to be more nimble, to respond to those workforce and economic needs, to respond to those community demands. And so that is the thing that community college can do that no other education sector can, because we're not bound by those restrictions of the traditional semester when it comes to things like workforce development. So really, we have the opportunity to say, here's a need. Let's be there to fill that need. Let's be there to help folks out.
Before we speak to Mr. Justin, who is the workforce development guy who's going to be instructing on these solar panel jobs, I just want you to give the information for the family, because they have their pens and the sheet of paper and their pencil. Where do they go to register? Because these classes start Saturday, so that means registration is open.
It is open,
right? So where do they go to register? Is there numbers, their website? Can they just roll up out there in Chalmette and make it happen? Tell me how that happens.
So go to the college's website, www.nunez.edu. Nunez is Nunez, so www.nunez.edu. If you go to /solar, nunez.edu/solar, it's going to take you right to our information landing page with some additional details about this particular class, as well as links to the registration. Or from the Nunez homepage, nunez.edu, right at the top of the page, you'll see a link for workforce development. Click there. all the information is there. If you come see us on campus, we have folks available regular business hours at the college, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Welcome to stop in or just call our general information and admissions number, which is 504-278-6467, 278-6467.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lindsay. I want to turn it over to Mr. Justin Reynolds. How you doing, big brother?
Oh, fantastic. Good morning. It's nice to be here.
Thank you for being here. So, solar jobs. That's what we're talking about.
Solar workforce. Yes,
solar workforce.
A lot of it.
So you are you have a unique background in solar.
I do.
Can you let the family know? Give them your solar story.
So just so you know, the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners is the premier certifying entity for solar installation and design in the United States. It's the highest level of certification that one can attain in the solar industry. It is recognized throughout North America and even in other parts of the world. There's a database on their webpage, nabcep.org, where you can find every certified NABCEP PV installer in one place by zip code throughout the entire United States. If you look in Louisiana, you'll see about 22 NABCEPs. I was the very first one in the state to be certified.
So you were the first person in Louisiana to be certified to install solar.
I was. In 2008, when my name went up on the board, you could go to California and see there were thousands. And you could go to Louisiana and you'd find just one name. That was me. And at that time, you had to have a certification to get a tax credit for a homeowner who wanted to put solar on their house. So
right, and it was
anyone in the state was getting a tax credit was basically to call me.
But that was the only one. You were the tax credit guy when it came to solar stuff, right?
But it was a serious bottleneck. I saw immediately there was a need to expand and teach other people how to do it because it got a little nuts. There were long lines of people trying to get solar for their homes, a lot of cars, traffic jams trying to get in the parking lot. It was an amazing time. There was only one company in the state that was certified and licensed to do installations. That was a big deal. So,
and there are many now.
Oh, now there's many.
Right.
Yeah, now there's over 300 licensed companies doing installations. You can find them on the contractor's database.
And so, but I asked that question because those 300 companies need workers, right? Certified workers, right?
And please note that just because there's 300 licensed companies, that does not mean that's the only people doing it. There's probably at least 10 times that many who are uncertified doing work.
Right, and that's not good.
Well, it can be more cost effective in some cases, but it's certainly not something that permitting officials like to see. No. So, you got to be working with a licensed contractor. You got to get a certification as a solar energy equipment contractor to pull a permit to do a solar installation. And that is part of why this course was put together in the first place. If you're an electrician and you want to add solar as a subclass to your license, you can take this class and you can add solar as a subclass to your license. If you're a mechanical contractor or just a general contractor who intends to hire an electrician.
So DBEs, the DBE folks, right?
That's it, everybody. This is an all invite, and yes, you can show up and sign up.
Wow, that is cool. So let me ask you this question because, how long does it take to get the certification is the big question for me.
Well, this particular certification is just 2 Saturdays. Yes, you have to give up your Saturdays.
Wait
but it's just an 8-hour day and an 8-hour day, October 3rd and October 7th. Come on.
Mr. Justin, Mr. Reynolds, are you telling me that I could be certified to install solar and go work for a solar company as an independent contractor, whatever, for 2 Saturdays in my life?
Yep, give up 2 nice Saturdays. And I know we all love our Saturdays, but, just give up 2 of them and jump in the solar business with both feet.
That is incredible. I think, like I was telling y'all, this is hot off the press, and this is one of those things that helps move us forward. There's right now, there's somebody in your household or in your family that needs a career, right?
It is a career.
And it is a career.
It's about writing contracts. It's about being an American and choosing to be your own boss and hiring yourself.
Right.
And doing a good job for your customers, learning morals in that sense.
Right.
And learning right from wrong and how you do good by people and you get referrals and they do good and send it out to
Do you have to be mechanically inclined? Do you have to be good with machines and tools?
It definitely helps. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You want to be able to get on a ladder.
Right. You got to get on a ladder. You got to do it.
But there's always something to do. I mean, let's say you're disabled and you can't do that. Can you answer the phone?
Yeah.
Can you call questions? Can you make a proposal for somebody? Yes, you don't have to be able to get on a ladder to be in the solar business.
Right.
And this class is it's not a theory class. This is a hands-on. 50%
this is all
of everything
practical, right?
Well, we're hooking it up. We're putting a system together, turning it on. You're going to understand how it works, understand how much energy it collects from the sun, how to avoid the shade.
I saw that. I saw that Daystar meter you have there, and he's been like checking the light everywhere we've been.
Yeah, well,
this guy is solar, man.
I carry a Daystar around with me. That's a pyroheliometer. It tells you how much sun you're getting. Just like you can wet your finger, put it up in there, and see which way the wind's coming from.
Right.
It lets you know just how much sun you're getting in a spot. And that changes, depending on if it's cloudy weather or whatnot. But without that device, if you go to a system that's already been installed, you can't really determine how well it's working without some sort of reference. And that's what's used as a reference. And so a lot of people say, well, is it working? Well, if they're not holding one of those in their hand, they can't answer you.
Right.
They can't. They can say, oh, yeah, I think so, but they don't know. They're not measuring it. And so part of the idea of this class is not just new construction, but New Orleans has so many homes that have gone solar. There's a lot of maintenance going on right now.
And
a lot of repairs and bring it up to code,
You know what? I wanted to actually tap on that because the maintenance part of solar and solar panels is the actual business, right? The installation is the beginning, it's the introduction, but you have
to.
It's
big money, for people getting jobs or people, getting their tax refunds and stuff. It's a big rush and push to get new systems installed before it's too late.
But then there's the maintenance,
and there's everything already done.
Right? Huh? Again, give me some. How do people get registered? That's all I want to know now.
All right, I'm going to tell you one more time. Go to our website, nunez.edu/solar. We made it super easy. nunez.edu/solar. That's where you're going to find all of the information, everything that Justin shared about his credentials, his background. It's on that page. So is the online form to register. If for any reason you have problems with the online system, you don't have access to a computer, you can call us. Someone will help you out. You can call us at Nunez Community College at 504-278-6467, 278-6467. Go to that homepage, nunez.edu, click on Workforce Development, and you're going to see big, bold, teal letters, because that's our colors at Nunez, teal, saying new workforce class in solar construction, solar panel installation and design beginning this Saturday, October 3rd, continues on Saturday, October 10th, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. For folks that want to know the cost information, $649 and 2 Saturdays, and you are ready to go.
I wasn't even going to ask about the cost because for me, that's something that's priceless. A career in 2 Saturdays. Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. Thank you, Justin, for being here. And we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the voice of the people. WBOK 1230 AM, where it's real talk for real times.
You're listening to the Good Morning Show on WBOK 1230 AM.
And we are back right here at WBOK Small Business Thursday, live in studio right here in Gentilly, y'all. My name is Isaac, and we are giving you the community's small businesses, nonprofits, and organizations that are moving the community forward. Real quick, I want to let you know that When a Mother Weeps will be playing Saturday, October 3rd at 5 p.m. at the L.B. Landry High School auditorium, I was posed. This is a poignant play that depicts a young man's struggle when his choices cause his best friend's death. You can come get energized. There have been 114 murders this year in the city, and our city has been overcome by violence, and we must act now. When a Mother Weeps, Saturday, October 3rd at 5 p.m. at the L.B. Landry High School Auditorium. Tickets in advance are $15. You could get them at whenamotherweeps.eventbrite.com, whenamotherweeps.eventbrite.com, and $20 at the door. Go out and support our young people putting the drama out and writing and performing, and it's definitely a good cause. In studio right now, I have Miss Debbie Rusher. How you doing, Miss Debbie?
I'm doing great, thank you.
And Miss Debbie, I give thanks for you. And Miss Debbie is here from Shanga Beads.
Shanga Design.
Shanga Design.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, and Shanga means bead in Swahili.
Yeah. Kidogo.
No.
No, kidogo means a little. I know a little Swahili.
Me too. I took it here, and I forgot everything.
Yeah, kidogo. That means a little. I know that.
Okay, cool.
Right. But Shanga beads. And so you create art through beads.
Yes, I do.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm
beautiful art,
totally,
may I add, right?
Totally bead crazy. Right. That is completely recognized. But actually when I started working with beads, it was not really about the beads because I wasn't aware of that yet. Mm-hmm. It was like, technical, I'm going to make that. I'm going to create that, And as you start working with things like beads, oh my gosh, it just keeps going and going and going. And the thing is that it becomes very, very primal. And so now my world is all about beads, but what they mean and how they feel. And I don't know what they can say to you.
Right.
So that very, very quickly it becomes an art form as opposed to she just beads. Yeah.
Right.
So it grows.
Well, I'm looking at one of your creations right now. You have the headdress here.
Yes. But this is Yolanda.
This is Yolanda.
Yes.
Hello, Yolanda.
Yes.
I'm glad you're on WBOK right now. But the flowers to me are just so lifelike. The beaded flowers, and those are flowers that last forever, I would suppose.
Yes, they do.
Right?
And they don't need watering.
They don't need watering. But they're beautiful.
Bonus.
But they're beautiful. And so you were telling me that the flower petals were your first realization when you came to understand that beading was a part of your life that you could not do without, right?
Absolutely. There's absolutely a story behind all of these things. And I've been crafting since I was 7. My grandmother beside my grandmother, and she taught me to knit, which, that using my hands became, just kind of a regular thing. But I went many, many years crafting and just making things and
creating.
Just creating,
right.
Yes. But it was kind of more about just creating and not really getting deeply into it. I had the rest of my life, kind of thing going on. But then as I went and wanted to find something very, very unique, I ended up finding French flower beading. And once again, that has a story.
Right.
Everything
has a
does.
story, right?
Yeah, that's kind of my way.
And I would think every bead tells a story.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's absolutely true. First off, beads have been with us forever. And
they're still here.
And they're still here. And we find basically it's really, even though I say all the time it's all about the beads, but really it isn't so much about the bead as what the beads represent. And beads always represent a whole lot to us, whether it's through their color, whether it's through their texture, whether it's just the fact that anything you can put a hole through, it becomes a bead, that then it becomes very personal. If you have a favorite leaf, if you have a favorite seed, if you have a favorite whatever, and you put a hole through it.
It's a bead.
It's a bead.
Right.
And then you can wear it. You can keep it close to your heart. You can preserve it. And
right.
Yes. And so it becomes a very, very intrinsic part of your world.
I know you have something coming up this weekend.
I do.
At the Community Book Center with Sister Vera. How you doing, Sister Vera?
Yeah,
Shout out to
hello.
you, Vera Warren. And the Community Book Center is right around the corner. It is the only black bookstore in New Orleans. And so what's going on this weekend at the Community Book Center?
Yes. Miss Vera and I have had been talking for years, actually, about doing something together for a very long time. And finally, this weekend, we get to have a trunk show.
Okay.
So I will be having my work at the store and be there for Friday and Saturday.
Will you be doing any demonstrations?
I will. Actually, I have decided to speak about my work for several minutes at 2, 4, and 6 on each day. Just to try to keep myself organized because I can get pretty unorganized in a minute.
It's going to be you and a bunch of beads. And
yeah, really. I can get distracted.
It's tough to stay focused, right?
Exactly. It's like, oh, wow, and I can get talking, so.
Right.
It's kind of
Right. I totally understand that. So this weekend, there at the Community Book Center.
Yes.
You could see some of the Shanga designs, right there in person, but 2, 4, 6, but.
Okay, the actual trunk show will be from noon to 7.
Okay.
At the book center, and at 2, 4, and 6. I just kind of picked some times. On each day, I will be speaking about more specifically about the beads or about how I got into it or anything else anybody really kind of wants to know, because this has been something that really grew, that became a very, very organic, but it yes, first from the flowers.
Flowers.
Yes, but it also grew where it's very large. I have dreams about my designs. It's very intrinsic, and so many things can be spoken about
right.
it.
So I'm excited. I'm excited for the community to come out and see beadwork. In New Orleans, when we think about beads, we think about the Indians, right? And so this is a different type of beadwork.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at the beads. The size of the beads are a little, they're similar in size. They're very small beads.
Yes.
So there's a lot of.
This is wire work.
Right.
Which is which is quite a lot different.
Right.
And the bead techniques actually have a history unto themselves. It's called French flower beading, and it does have quite a long history unto itself.
Right.
So, but the thing is that there's very, very, very many forms of beading because it is such a part of our world.
It's such a part of just being a human, right?
Yes.
So. This weekend, Saturday, from noon to 7.
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday, okay. From noon to 7, Shanga Designs Trunk Show.
That's it.
Right there at the Community Book Center. Shout out to you, Miss Vera Warren. Miss Debbie, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much
and sharing your art with us. And the family's going to be out there. I can tell you that right now. So we are right here live in studio for Small Business Thursday. Again, do not forget about tonight, the Generations Networking Mixer from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Le Musée at 2336 Esplanade Avenue. In studio, I have Miss Eddie Sue Baham and Miss Thais Howard from BDT Auto Title and Tag Company. And also BDT Baham Diversified Taxes. How you doing, Miss Thais?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. I'm giving thanks. It's the Small Business Thursday. This is what we do. We make sure that the family knows about businesses that are helping move the community forward. And so what you guys do at the BDT Auto Title and Tag Company out there at 5741 Crowder Boulevard is you help people get ready to ride legally, right? Is that what's going on here?
Yes, sir. That's what we do, and we're grateful to be out there in eastern New Orleans.
Right, yeah.
And we're serving the whole metropolitan area. So we look forward to everyone coming out and, just taking part in getting legalized.
Right. How long has the business been out there?
The business actually has been in eastern New Orleans for about 4 years, but we are just now at that particular location within the last 2 years.
Okay. And so in East New Orleans, there are a lot of families living, right?
Yes.
And I guess every family, what's the average, 1.5 cars in each family or something like that, right? And so those people need to have the brake tag. You know what? I had a friend in town, and they said, well, what you need a brake tag for? And I said, a brake tag is where I'm from, we have inspection stickers.
Right.
I said it's the same thing. You in New Orleans, chill out. But y'all put the brake tags on cars, is that correct?
No.
So see, now you got me. Now you got to put me together now.
Okay, so anyway, you have the inspection sticker on the back of the car, on the plate.
On the plate, okay.
On the plate. That's one form of being legalized.
Okay.
Here.
License plate, title, and registration.
Title.
So y'all handle titles too as well?
Yes, sir.
So, you know, my uncle gave me his car. I'm riding in his car, and it's still in his name, but it's my car. I got a problem.
Yes, sir, you do. You need to come on in and see us.
I need to come on in and see Miss Thais and Miss Eddie Sue over there at BDT out there on Crowd.
Yes, sir.
What are some other, you know, typical client issues that you see coming when it comes to getting a license plate, title, and registration stuff?
Well, what we have found is that insurance, a lot of people don't have insurance, and a lot of people, like you said, the transfer of the titles. And make sure when you go out and you purchase a car, you make sure that that title is clear. Because you come in and you have like 2 or 3 transactions on a title, and you have to go back and pay taxes against that
on all 3 of those transactions.
All three of the transactions, yes.
Now, see, you done told me something.
Yes, so you have to be very careful, because I have a lot of people who are buying cars off the street. You know, somebody come up to you, they give you the title, and you think you're free and clear.
Right, just because they handed it to you.
Yes.
That's not the official way to get that title in your name.
Right.
You can't write. I know there's a thing you can write on the back or something. Is that it?
Right. Well, you sign your name on the back of it, but if you have 2 or 3 signatures on the back of it, then you're responsible for that tax. The taxes are those 3 people. Those 2 or 3 people, because you're the owner of that car, and if you want to register that car.
How many people are getting in legal trouble and, you know, then not able to get to work and all this other stuff because they can't use that car because of what's going on with their title, you know?
Well, I just spoke with a lady on yesterday, and her car was impounded. Okay, so now on top of the problems that she have to pay for the taxes of the person who had the car before her, now she have to get it out the impound.
Right.
So you have all these situations that you run into.
And she still can't prove that it's her car or not.
Well, she can prove it's her car because she have the title.
Okay.
Okay, the title proves that it's her car, but in legally, her name is not on the title, and I cannot put her name on the title until she pays those taxes.
Wow. That's interesting. But so to take it from the title, and let's talk about registration. Okay. So how different is registration from the title? Registration is that when they ask you, I need your license and registration, right?
Right.
Registration is that paper that says this is your car, this is where you got it from, this is where you live, and all these other things, right?
Right. And when you have the registration, you should be legal because the registration, it really stands for that I have insurance. I've done everything that I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm sitting here while I'm talking to you and while we having this conversation, I'm thinking about the young brothers, the people that have had the bad incident with the law because they were not sure about what was going on with their license and registration. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And so they decide that they want to, you know, go about doing it the wrong way with the law instead of saying, you know what, man, I don't know, or, you know.
Well, can I tell you something? I have people coming in off the street all the time, so I don't have a problem with that. I go as far as to investigate and find out who they purchased the car from, how can we clear up their situations. So I'm just not a fly-by-night person.
Oh, no, I understand that, but I'm just thinking about the people, you know, the brothers that decided to make the wrong decision when it came down because they just didn't know what was going on in that glove compartment.
But you know what I tell them? I say make sure that everything is right and legit. You know, at the end of the day, you're responsible for it.
Right.
And if you come in my door, I'm going to make sure I'm going to do everything I can to help you get there.
Okay.
Right.
And so instead of going to the DMV to get my stuff updated or renewed, the registration, do I come see you?
Oh, yes.
Is that how that works?
That's how that works. And we don't have a long line.
Right, yeah. Y'all probably got cold drinks and everything.
No, we have number 1 customer service. We have water.
Right. Right, I understand. I got
we
that.
supply cold water.
Right. Now look, I'm not. I'm just messing with you. But I know y'all have, I understand the thing with customer service, and I would rather go to a place where I know I'm going to get great customer service just because of the customer service.
And you want to treat people the way you want to be treated.
Right. You know? So tell me about the taxes. Tax season is coming up, right, next year?
Yes.
And some people are still kind of dealing with some tax issues right now. So tell me about the tax business. Did you do the tax business before you did the license and registration business?
Yes, I've actually been I've been doing taxes for about 10 years now.
Okay.
So that's not new to me.
But the laws are changing. The tax laws change.
They change every year.
Right.
And you have to be up on your game because every year I actually do the classes, and I'm an enrolled certified agent.
Okay.
So you can look me up on Internal Revenue website.
I have to look you up, Miss.
And also, even with the BDT auto title, you can look me up.
Okay.
I'm there.
Right. And I know, because you're taking care of business. You're trying to make sure everybody's situated and certified and out here doing it the right way.
That's right.
And see, that's what we need, more people like you. But we also need to know that there are people like you out here doing good business and putting people in a position to be successful, right?
Right.
So that's really cool. So your tax services, are they expensive? How do they come? I don't want to say, what is it about your tax service that sets you apart from everybody else?
Well, my tax service, I have one fee. I don't care if your refund, if it's $1 million or it's $1.
What if I brought 10 million receipts? It's still the same fee?
Well, if you bring 10 million receipts, you better have me know, or you're going to be charged. No, I'm just kidding. Well, there's a different charge for that, of course.
Look, I'm saying, I got a shoebox. I got a couple of them.
Oh, no.
What you got, Ms. Tice? Do you handle some of the tax stuff as well?
I try to help out as much as possible, especially in the marketing division. But one thing that we do have to realize is business taxes.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's
separate and apart.
That
from
is what I'm talking about. I'm joking,
normal,
but I'm so serious. Right.
1040.
Right.
So when you come in, and we also specialize in those individuals who are afraid of the Internal Revenue Service.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
we can help you. We can assist you with getting everything cleared up.
Right.
There are special programs out there that Ms. Baham is trained and certified in that she can try and clear up these matters where you can hopefully understand what's going on with your taxes, but aside from that, get cleared.
All right. Before we run out of time, I just want y'all to let people know how to get in touch with y'all, the address, and things of that nature.
All right. So anyway, we can be reached at 504-246-7800.
That's a New Orleans East number right there, if I ever heard one. 246. Give it to me one more time.
504-246-7800. Also, 5741 Crowder Boulevard, Suite B7. We can also be reached at Baham Diversified Taxes at yahoo.com. Okay. BAHAMDIVERSIFIED Taxes at yahoo.com.
That's awesome right there. Right there in New Orleans East. Miss Eddie Sue Baham, Miss Thais Howard, I really appreciate y'all for coming and sharing with the WBOK family how they can get their sales legal and get their tax issues handled. When you get that letter in the mail from the IRS talking about you owe them some money, whoo, you better call Miss Baham and get it together. My name is Isaac. This is Small Business Thursday. Again, this is the day, tonight from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Les Musées, 2336 Esplanade Avenue. You do not want to miss it. It's being put on by WBOK in partnership with the Urban League. There will be vendors out there. There will be food out there. There will be music out there. And hopefully you will be out there networking. Bring your business cards. And let's have a good time tonight, y'all. Come and support. Figure out who's moving and shaking and how you can make a move and shake with them too. All right. So until next time, give thanks.